Well, hello. Welcome to Orchid Bloom's podcast. Welcome back, bloomers. I am your host, Orchid Brown, with Orchid Bloom's podcast. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and X at Orchid Eye Brown. This week's episode was inspired by Black History Month, and we will be focusing on the weaponization of Black history. This podcast episodes require a lot of thought for me personally. So much so that I was supposed to write and record this podcast episode last Black History Month, but did not. I needed more time. Now that it has been written, I am excited to share a bit of my thought process when it comes to the topic of weaponization of Black history. So let's begin by defining weaponization. Weaponization is the act of making something into a weapon or using something to harm people. It can also refer to the act of putting weapons in a place. Examples of weaponization are weaponization of chemicals, weaponization of bacteria, weaponization of information, using propaganda, conspiracy theories, social media bots, and other methods to sow doubt and division, which we see a lot of in social media, the news networks. It's been going rampant since COVID. I'm sure it's been happening prior to that, but it's not at the scale that we're seeing now. The next one is weaponization of the legal system, using a legal system to promote a political agenda, which we have been seeing. Also, the weaponization of the internet, again, using the internet to attack people or groups. It's been so bad. It's been so bad. Every time I go on social media, you see horror stories. And of course, last on the list is weaponization of prosecutorial power, which means using prosecutorial power to upend the democratic process, which again, we have been seeing for years, especially with Donald Trump. Black history is the history of African descendants, including their experiences, achievements, and contributions to society. It's a significant part of world history. When it comes to Black history in the United States, their history is categorized to include the history of slavery, the civil rights movement, and other key events, including the contribution of Black leaders, artists, and writers. It also includes the legacy of racism in social structures like economics and law. When it comes to Black history in Canada, our history is categorized to include the experiences of people of African origins in Canada, starting in ancient times in Africa. This also includes the arrival of Mathieu du Costa in 1604, the first person of African heritage known to have come to Canada. Black History Month celebrates the triumphs and struggles of African Americans throughout United States history, honors unsung historical figures, encourages people to recognize past and evaluate the present, and plan for the future, serves as reminders to the work that needs to be done to eradicate social injustice. When it comes to weaponization, Black history has been harmed by weaponization of information, weaponization of the legal system, and weaponization of the prosecutorial power. These are the three that we have seen firsthand through Black history. This podcast episode will focus on the weaponization of information with Black history, which would include stereotypes. Stereotypes are, just to quickly define it is a biased thought about a person due to incorrect belief that the category accurately describes them. The second that we will touch on is cognitive hacking. And the third that we will touch on is disinformation of campaigns. So out of the three, I decided that I wanted to focus on weaponization of information, because that is the one that I feel we as Black people are continuing to hear constantly, and then it comes right out of our mouth and we start sharing it with so many other people, and that is harmful. It is harmful to ourselves, it's harmful to the community, and it's quite dangerous because it's the easiest thing for them to do, because we as Black people, or people, humans in general, they're not realizing the programming through information that is being sent out through the news, through social media, through books. Sometimes you take a program and they start programming you to think a certain way when it comes to a certain topic. So you go out into this industry with this idea that this is how it's supposed to be because you were programmed through school. Information is a weapon that could be used to harm many people. And a lot of people in society don't realize that the information that is really being put out there is sometimes not for your benefit. It really isn't. I mean, Kendrick Lamar wrote a song that said, "Turn the TV off." Right? I mean, he wasn't joking. A lot of people don't understand what he's trying to say, but it's okay. Turn the TV off. At this point, I don't watch a lot of commercials. I don't watch a lot of things. I stream, yes, but I specifically focus on certain types of shows or movies to give my attention to. I have been very intentional about the messaging that is being sent my way and making sure to block them if it does not align with what I believe. So education and information, it's free to access, but you have to be careful because it can influence you in a lot of ways, because we've been programmed as children to receive information and believe what we're hearing and believe what is being said. Most of us don't go out of our way to educate ourselves, to learn more about history before we start believing everything. Most of us don't take the time to look at perspectives and ask ourselves the question, why is this stereotype being pushed? Why do I believe in this system? What made me think that it was true? Just because we heard it from a parent, just because we heard it from someone that inspires us, someone that influences us, just because we heard it on TV? I mean, sometimes we need to ask ourselves these questions, because most people that you're hearing this from most likely got this information from somebody who heard it somewhere else, and no one has truly proved it. So information is quite dangerous. And so we all need to learn how to filter out what we're hearing and be able to disagree with it within ourselves and decide that we don't want to receive that level of negativity that may come with information that's being brought to us. We have to choose to turn the TV off. In Black history, since we're going to start with the first topic, which is stereotype, Black men are stereotyped as being deadbeat fathers, dangerous criminals, hypersexual athletes, uncivilized, uneducated, and violent. They are also stereotyped as homophobic. A Black man could never say no to sex. But let's be honest, since we're on this topic, all men can never say no to sex. There are deadbeat fathers in every culture, in every country, and there's a lot of them. The only difference is, we don't have the media and misinformation being thrown out there constantly on a global level to try to tear down an entire race of people being pushed for other cultures. You hear these stories little at a time, and that's because their community makes sure to protect their reputation. But unfortunately, with the Black community, it's very difficult to do that when you have so many who view us as enemy. Dangerous criminals, for another example, only came about because after slavery was abolished, people wouldn't give them work. No one wanted to pay them to work. And so they had to put themselves in situations where they had to steal food, money, do whatever they needed to do to help feed their families. So they're only considered dangerous criminals because the system, a country that they built, created a system to make sure they could not amount to anything. So what else were they supposed to do? And as time went by, they, became athletes. And that was another avenue that they could go down because, being a criminal is looked down upon. But they made majority of the citizens that are Black criminals because of the mistreatment that they were going through socially. It's considered injustice. Hypersexual, I mean, let's be honest. most people that I meet that aren't Black tend to look at me and look at other Black people and think they're hypersexual and just think of them as a object. And what they don't actually understand is that mindset came from colonizers. That mindset that we were just sexual beings for them to play with. The actual thought process behind it, where it actually stems from, is from a dark place. But for some apparent reason, a lot of people still think that that is true, that Black women and Black men wanted to be raped. It's something that these colonizers told themselves as they abused a race of people. Hypersexual, they told themselves in their mind, oh, they love to be fucked. And guess what? They raped children too. Because let's be real, Black kids are just born hypersexual. We want to be raped, right? So sorry to say all of that, but if you really think back at where these stereotypes came from, it came from sick people. And I have to say that majority of the people that come over to me and say that are usually men. They're usually men because I'm a female. So it's a man from like a different culture that would come over to me and say that to me. And upon them saying that, in my mind, I was like, I need to stay away from you because you have a belief system and you're coming to me and talking to me with pride about what you're sharing with me because you want me to agree with the stereotype that you have in your head. It's a belief system. You grew up on this system. Your parents fed this to you. You've just told me that something is wrong with you and your family. So I want nothing to do with you or your family. So of course I'm polite, I'm nice, and I just go, oh really? That's what you believe of me, that I just want to fuck. Ah, okay. And you see me walking and you just see me and it's like, yeah, she wants to be fucked. She wants to be fucked by me. It's very odd, very, very odd. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm going to stay far, far away from you. I don't want you near me. You won't even be able to come over to my home. You will not catch us hanging out. We'll not be going for drinks. I'm not about this life. But good luck finding your hypersexual Black girl to take advantage of. Black women are stereotyped as overweight, confident, assertive, promiscuous, not feminine and aggressive, as well as having big butts, wearing hair weaves, and like to eat fried chicken. I mean, I do like fried chicken, just not all the time. And did you ever think that maybe back in the day, that's all they had access to? So that's all they could eat? I mean, fried chicken is good, but there is a lot more cuisines that Black people, ate back in the day to just stereotype it to fried chicken. But yeah, I like my weave. No hate. I'm lazy. I don't feel like doing my hair every day. So, and I can be aggressive when you start to project the stereotype and the incorrect belief system that you grew up on about me. I become very aggressive and very defensive because it reminds me of the injustice to Black people over history. And for you to come over and say, I'm just joking because you say these things, does not make me feel good. It rubs me the wrong way. You rub me the wrong way. Yes, Black women have to be confident, assertive, and most of the times we're unfeminine. Not all the times. You've just caught us on a bad day, but we've had to be the male and the female in our lives. We've had to be our own protector, our own defender, and we have had to fight for ourselves when no one else would, not even people within our community. So there are questions that you should ask yourself before you prejudge a Black person without getting to know them first, learning their history and what they've actually been through, because we've been through a lot. And of course, my personal favorite is in the workplace, what they have to say about Black women in the workplace. We're hypersensitive, angry, hostile, aggressive, always aggressive, or ill-tempered. And of course, difficult. They love using that word difficult in the workplace to describe Black women. But you know what? I've decided that I'm going to create an entire podcast episode on Black women in the workplace for another day. I will not touch on this. I feel that Black women in the workplace is definitely a podcast episode on its own. But for now, this is about weaponization of information. And we're on the topic of stereotypes. What people do not understand is that stereotypes in Black men and women are learned behavior perpetuated by society for centuries. They made this up in their head to try to tear down an entire race because maybe they weren't happy with the conditions of losing their slaves. And so they wanted to broadcast to the entire world that these people are horrible people, even though, America was built on the back of slaves. They were great when you were using them to build a country, but now that you had to release your slaves and now you had to pay them, this became a problem. So, hey, talk your shit. We understand. It just sucks that you decided to pass that down through your entire descendants. And now in 2025, we're still dealing with that bullshit. Stereotyping refers to actively accepting and perpetuating generalized belief about a group of people, even if they are inaccurate or harmful. As I said before, they come up to me, brave white boys come up to me and bring up these stereotypes of who I am and turn it into a joke where they're the only ones laughing, and I'm still waiting for the actual joke. Because it's not funny, it's harmful, and it's inaccurate. But they felt the need, like, oh, you're a friend. I can say all of these racist jokes and say racial things about you that came from my ancestors who did horrible things to you. Ha ha ha. Yes. I'm so glad you're laughing. So when it comes to the negative connotation of stereotypes, embracing stereotypes is generally considered negative, as it can lead to prejudice and discrimination against individuals based on their group members. The other issue about stereotyping is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. In some cases, individuals might even start to believe in the ways that align with the stereotypes they are being ascribed to, reinforcing the stereotype further. And I do see this happen all the time. I do feel that this happens a lot. I meet people within my own community that live and breathe the stereotypes that have been put on them because they've never once questioned why they were doing it and why the stereotype was placed on them as a Black person. I feel that over time, when it comes to these stereotyping, especially the self-fulfilling prophecy, as I was just talking about, it seems that it became cool to embrace these self-fulfilling prophecies. People are praised for it. When you are rewarded for this, you continue doing it until it becomes a part of your identity. And it's so sad. It's so very sad to see an entire race lose themselves the way that they have over everything. All the people that have fought for something better to now look down from heaven and see their descendants completely lose their identity. That would make me cry. It would make me just tear up. There is always an educated explanation for a lot of stereotypes in society, but a lot of people do not use this skill that everyone is born with. It's called critical thinking. So I really hope that going forward, listening to stereotypes, this first point of this podcast episode, that you use critical thinking and you ask yourself the questions, why are you continuing to perpetuate, believe, or act out the stereotypes that have been placed upon you or stereotypes that you have heard about other people? So number 2 on the list for weaponization of information is called cognitive hacking. Cognitive hacking is a cyber attack that manipulates human psychology to change how people think and behave. It's a type of psychological manipulation that uses misinformation, disinformation, and manipulated digital content. How does cognitive hacking work? It targets human perceptions and decision making. It can make people believe false information. It can make people like things they wouldn't normally like. It can make people make decisions that are beneficial to their attackers. How is cognitive hacking different from traditional hacking? Traditional hacking targets technical systems, while cognitive hacking targets people. So I want to repeat this again. Cognitive hacking targets human perceptions and the decision-making process and involves manipulating individuals or groups into believing false information, liking something they would not like, or making decisions that are advantageous to their adversaries. Due to this, some Black people conduct themselves in a way that would be considered against our best interests. So we can be easily digestible by others and other culture. And this is one of the messages that Kendrick Lamar was putting in his Super Bowl performance. And some people were going to get it and other people were not. But the people who were actually affected by the messaging that Kendrick put in his Super Bowl performance, we got it. We got it loud and clear. Cognitive hacking is a form of control. The goal is to keep a large group of people subservient, and those who do not conform are labeled rebels. They are just bad people, and they are considered defects of society because the hack did not work. But psychological manipulation forces those who aren't hacked to choose to conform. They are given the choice to fall in line because it's not working. Cognitive hacking and psychological manipulation was not working. Now you need to choose. If you want to be successful, you need to choose, or they'll deduct one life. I would like to make this very clear. This is not something that is done on Black people or just Black people. I have seen it in all cultures, including white people. Y'all are not exempt. A lot of people do not recognize what is happening to them, what is happening in society. Most Black people understand because we have suffered alone and endured. We were the first subjects in the experiment. It worked, so it went national. The last point of weaponization of information is disinformation campaign. Now, disinformation campaign on Black history has been used in many instances to incite division. It is used to bait rage. They broadcast to the world, to people, the injustice and unfairness that is happening in the world and in communities. Due to your skin color, you are awarded more privilege, such as forgiveness, and as many free passes as you want. If it was a Black person, you would be killed for doing that. Your entire career would be over. You'd be completely blacklisted and you'd have to crawl into a hole and go there and die. Yes, that is bait raging. Black people are already aware of the injustice. So why are we so easily triggered and upset by what we are seeing? We are clearly being used all over again, as we are always being used. This is why I am so proud of the movement in the United States of Black people staying out of the fight. There's a movement that's happening right now. You see it all over social media, especially on TikTok, where women and men from other cultures are upset with Black women specifically because now they have to do their own work. They can't just ride on the backs of Black people anymore. I know my people are powerful, but we need to sit this one out, especially with them voting in Donald Trump again. All of those people are just going to have to reap what they sow. I am so proud of them for staying out of it, because why are we the ones always fighting other people's battles for them? Why all of these communities turn around begging Black women and Black people to come save them when they set themselves up? If you can't learn the first time and you keep making the same mistake over and over and over again, you are the problem. Fix your own shit, because fixing your shit is not making our shit better. It's not. We need to take that energy and we need to put it back into our communities and build up ourselves the way that we need to, and stop trying to clean up somebody else's house like we did when we were slaves for free. It's all for free. We're not getting paid for that shit. So stop going over to their house, mopping their floors, fixing their bed, cooking their meals, taking care of their kids. Like, stop. I love this movement. I love it so much. Stop being a slave. Stop being a house slave, specifically house slave. That's the next episode. Let those people sit in their choices. Let them fight for themselves. I mean, in the Black community, if you look at, the way Black parents raise their kids, whenever they make a mistake or they do something wrong, the parent, let them sit in it. Let them learn from it. Let them get up, pick themselves back up, and try again. And yet, we give more forgiveness, more privileges to people outside of the culture when we wouldn't even give our own kids that. We're stern with our kids. So why are we going out of our way giving those privileges to other races? Why? Mind your own business. Stop trying to save a hoe. Stop trying to save a hoe. Black people did all that we could do to save democracy, and the other cultures dropped and fumbled the ball. And now those same people are turning around asking, why can't you help us? Why won't you stand up for us? Who did you vote for? Who did you vote for? Even if you specifically didn't vote for Trump, your family did. Your family did. What does that say? You didn't think that you needed to educate your family, get all of your family members on board and standing up against something horrible that's going to happen in the future. You didn't think so. You just thought, oh, we just need to sit back and let Black people handle this. No, Black people did their part. We are done. We're done. Clean up your own damn mess. You keep saying this is your country and we don't belong here. So clean up your own damn mess. Now these people are seeing how hard it is. The amount of work that they have to put in to get these things done, to actually accomplish something. The amount of defeats and battles that they've lost. And it's so hard, and yet they're still turning around with the little energy that they have, begging for help. Nope. It's none of our business, because when it's time to fight for us, we can't find none of y'all. When we need help, not one of your asses show up. So we've been doing this for what, a century? No. Now it's time for us to take a step back, to have a seat and watch y'all actually put in the work. You use us when you need us, but fail us when you don't need us anymore. You won't catch me fighting no one else's battles. Histories have proven that Black people are always left behind once these other races get what they want. Then they act like they don't know you anymore. Of course, they're like, oh, I don't know who those people are. And then another problem comes up and all of a sudden you know who we are. All of a sudden you no longer like, oh, I do I know you? Oh, I do. I remember you helped us with this situation. But a week ago, it was, I don't know who that person is. Ew, don't touch me. Get away from me. Are you kidding me? No. Black people, have a seat. Take a step back. Watch them actually fight for their own democracy. Because we're done. We're done. With everything happening in the States, it is history repeating itself. And Black people need to stay the hell out of this fight. Stop being everyone's savior. Savior to every damn culture. To the Spanish, the whites, the Palestinians, the this, the Arabs, the Indians. Just mind your own business. If they won't fight for themselves and their own best interests when they voted, then why should you? Why should you fight for them? Learn from your own history, our history. It has never worked in our favor to fight for people that don't even want to fight for themselves. Now, to switch over the topic just a little bit, one of the reasons why Trump's plan may not work with the disinformation campaign, ripping Black people from American history and destroying all the books that educate children on Black history. One of the reasons why that would not work is because he has embodied his colonizer ancestors. Everything he is doing is from the colonizer playbook. Some Black people know this. This is their history. They know what this looks like. Others want to forget, or they don't want to know or learn from those who came before them. We've been here before. We have been here before. Trump's plan to erase Black history does not remove the influence of Black people or the power we hold. Black people have significantly influenced society through their contributions to art, culture, music, politics, science, and social movements, shaping various aspects of American life, including language, fashion, food, and even technology. Despite facing systematic racism, notable examples include the civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Power movement, and the ongoing impact of Black culture on mainstream entertainment and media. Erasing Black history won't change that. The powers to be use Black influence for their own agenda. Cognitive hacking by Trump, aligning himself with Black people that have influence in their communities. He believes he will have influence over Black people. He does not understand that you can't buy love and influence, but the only thing you could do is buy them. Literally. And of course, a lot of these Black people who are taking the money and aligning with him, they don't realize that Trump's not worried if this backfires. The community will disown the Black influencer for doing that, and their legacy will eventually die, but the colonizer will live on. Let's not forget Rwanda. It was a genocide. You know who lived? Not, the people that were fighting. The point is, it was a genocide. But the people that influenced that to start this war between Black people, they're fine. They are completely fine. Trump understands the rules. He fears nothing. He pays you to lose your Black card. That's what he does. He's making a mockery and a joke of your community and of the people who are of influence in that community. How much are they worth? And he showed you how much they're worth. These people are easily bought. They will always submit to a man with money. This is something that occurs all the time in society. But because it's in the workplace or somewhere small, it's not publicized. It is not as known. Now we are seeing it live in real time. The worst part about it is they got paid to be a traitor. Snoop Dogg's and the others performing at the inauguration. Well, not at the that celebration for Trump, but I think it was like before at some party. They got paid very well to be there to celebrate for Trump. But with these influencers, because they have notoriety, they got paid for it. But now if you come down to the bottom with the rest of us, a lot of people do that shit for free. A lot of Black people do that shit for free, just to be seen by people in power, just to stand next to them and be recognized. Then I watch them be humiliated in a humiliation ritual of their own creation, because you knew what you were signing up for, but you were hopeful and you wanted the best. You were hoping that this was your chance to shine, and instead you got dragged for filth. But at the bottom, it's not as forgiving as it is for people at the top. eventually people will forget what these celebrities have done. And they can act like it's a blip that happened in history. But for people at the bottom, we don't get that opportunity. So once you show people who you are and what you're willing to sacrifice to get that recognition from people that don't like you, it stays with you. It really does. It stays with you because you're a nobody, and people at the bottom are going to consider you a nobody for a very long time. History does not just teach you what people in our society has accomplished. It teaches you a lot about humanity as a whole and how humanity treat each other just based on the shade of our skin. This concludes the podcast episode. Thank you for supporting the Orchid Blooms podcast. Please subscribe, follow, rate, and leave a review on the podcast or the episode, depending on the platform that you've chose to listen to this podcast episode on. We also have social media pages, so subscribe and follow Orchid Bloom's YouTube channel, The Ambitious Obsession Network on Facebook, at The Ambitious Ops on Twitter, at AmbitiousNet on Instagram. Don't forget to share your favorite podcast episode with your family and your friends, and I hope you have a splendid day.